Okay, I would like to call this meeting to order. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mrs. Becker.
Here.
Mr. Colangelo.
Present.
Mr. Sismar.
Here.
Mr. Cummings.
Here.
Ms. Guas. Mr. Hong. Mrs. Reese.
Here.
Mr. Winston.
Here.
President Lax.
Here, we have a quorum. Please rise to salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the rights of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed and acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this Act, the East Brunswick Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the Board of Education offices. Written notice was also provided to the Sentinel, the Newark Star Ledger, the Home News Tribune, and the Municipal Clerk of East Brunswick. All Board of Education meetings, with the exception of executive session discussions, are videotaped for later broadcast. It is the policy of the Board of Education that videotape meetings are not edited for any purpose. Individuals who speak at the board's public meeting should be aware of these videotaping rules. I am actually going to call a recess at this point, and we shall re-adjourn at 7:30. Okay, welcome back. Before we begin with tonight's business, I'm going to ask everyone if you could please stand. We're going to observe a moment of silence for Dr. John Arkopko, Superintendent of Schools. He retired. He was here from April 1st, 1989 through June 30th, 2000, and he recently passed away. Thank you very much. Okay, and moving on to our board business, we are going to start with Dr. Valesky and the superintendent's report this evening.
Good evening, everyone. The artwork on display in the boardroom this evening was created by students from Lawrence Brook Elementary School. The art teacher of these talented students is Michelle Lynch. Rachel Weisenkorn is the interim principal. On Tuesday, November 7th, staff members throughout the district participated in professional development sessions facilitated by supervisors, teacher leaders, and other professional organizations. Many of the workshops were designed to extend and deepen existing best practices and initiatives. We look forward to continuing these opportunities for staff members throughout the school year. On Wednesday, November 8th, Jan Maka's seventh grade English class boarded a fictitious plane and flew to Vegas to perform their published realistic fiction pieces. I don't know if any gambling was involved, but they flew to Vegas. This was the culminating lesson of their writing realistic fiction unit. Together, the students celebrated all of the time, effort, and hard work they put into writing over the past 4 weeks. The students did an outstanding job applying the writing skills they learned in class, specifically with their use of figurative language, meaningful dialogue, and descriptive language, all of which helped to paint a vivid picture of their chosen small moment. The students were excited and proud to share their published pieces and exuded confidence in front of their peers when speaking into the microphone. From the dim lights to the upbeat background music and the MC hosting the show, the entire atmosphere in the classroom helped set the stage for everyone to display their creativity. It does look like you're having a good time.
It does.
Sources of Strength mission is to prevent adverse outcomes by increasing well-being, help-seeking, resiliency, healthy coping, and belonging. On November 15th, students from the high school program visited Hammersholt Upper Elementary School. To begin the trip, high school peer leaders spoke with the Hammersholt students about how they utilize their sources of strength. They spoke about their mentors, family support, mental health, physical health, generosity, and positive friends. The trip ended with peer leaders answering questions and connecting with students in a more personal way. Many current members of Sources of Strength at the high school experienced this trip when they were in 5th grade and felt it made a positive impact in their lives. Now they're giving back to our community and encouraging a younger generation to seek support when needed or help a friend going through a difficult time. At Irwin School, as part of their PBSIS program, buddy classes met in November and wrote letters to all our local VFWs for Veterans Day. Students enjoyed writing messages to thank our local veterans for their service to our country. I am pleased to report, along with Mr. Juliana, that the high school weight room renovation and equipment replacement has been completed. And with a few minor adjustments that remain to be made, the newly refurbished space will be soon open for students to enjoy.
I like that.
It's not our gym anymore.
On tonight's agenda are recommendations to award contracts for the construction of the varsity and junior varsity softball fields and field hockey complex. The project is estimated to take approximately 6 months to complete, and that's with weather permitting. And this reflects input from the athletic department stakeholders, and we look forward to opening this new facility next school year. And before we go any further, I've asked Mr. Juliana to actually explain, because and to re-explain to the board all of the features and all of the pieces of this really fabulous complex.
Thank you, Dr. Valesky. So, just to orient everyone to the site, the top where you see the parking lot, that is the lower parking lot. It is just below the current baseball field and past the location of the stadium. In the orientation here, the stadium, football stadium, would be to the right of this complex. If we start from the top, and you can see the marker, we've got the entryway into the complex, a set of stairs leading up. This will be kind of a plateau setting for this complex. So the stairs leading up, and then over to the right of those stairs is the ADA handicapped access ramp up to the complex as well. Before anyone points this out at some point in time, the bear head that you see is not how the bear head will be oriented on the site. It will be oriented so that when you enter the site, you're going to be looking at it, or it's going to be looking at you, walking upside down. So, but for purposes of the illustration, it would look kind of odd to have an upside down head. So, let's go, as we go around in a clockwise manner from the main entrance, there's a flagpole. We continue on the walkway here. We're now down to the varsity side for softball, visitors, bleachers, dugouts for both visitors and for home team, and then down on the far right, another set of visitors bleachers. The dugouts will be equipped with water fountains for both teams. As we continue on around,
Hey,
one of the
Bernie,
things.
sorry.
Excuse me.
When you say water fountains, do you mean traditional water fountains or like the refilling stations where people can?
I think refilling stations, but I don't recall right off the top. There'll be water access. I just don't recall the detail on that. One of the things that I'll point out is that the entire field complex is fenced so that it is a secure area. And then as we come around the lower part, you'll see three areas that are blackened out. Those are scoreboards. So there's a scoreboard for each of the two softball fields. They're located in the vicinity of those two respective fields, and then there's a scoreboard in the center for field hockey purposes. This brown box down in the lower part of the depiction here, that is a combination storage on the first floor, and the second floor is a press box. We move along around to the JV field, and then we replicate essentially what we have on the varsity side. So there's spectator seating, the same type of dugouts for visitors and home. and then spectator seating again on the other side. Above the spectator seating, on the top left side of this image, you see these rectangular spaces. These are batting cages. 2 batting cages for softball, 2 batting cages for baseball. We did not have batting cages for the baseball complex, so we're able to provide them here. The water retention will all be underground, and the entire site will be lighted, so we'll be able to see that fly ball when it's coming over, and hopefully not hitting anyone in the head. And that's pretty much it. We're expecting it's going to take 6 months. I'm scheduling the kickoff meeting with the contractor for next Tuesday so that we can start having them move forward with their ordering and so forth. I can't say when are shovels going to get into the ground. I don't know when that will be. They'll need to prepare a schedule and provide that and tell us what those timelines are. But this is roughly going to be about 6 months. That's what our engineers are telling us. And of course, I give the caveat, weather permitting.
I have a couple questions.
Absolutely.
Where are the softball fences going to be, meaning they're portable? The home run fences?
They're the home.
Well, you don't just hit the ball
So,
and chase it forever. Right?
there's no permanent fencing that will be in the outfields. There will be movable
Yeah, right,
fencing.
movable fencing.
Yes, we'll have that.
And how many seats per area for,
For spectators?
Yeah.
I don't recall the size of the bleachers,
like
honestly.
80 or 20? Or
I don't want to misspeak, so I
Okay.
don't recall the numbers for each of the softball events. But this entire area along the top of the field of where the entry is, that's all potential seating, so bring your own folding chair, you can
Sure,
sit there.
Right.
Does this meet other softball field standards in the state? How did you get these
Absolutely.
numbers?
It's
Absolutely.
state of the art.
This is meeting
Beautiful.
all the athletic standards for the kind of play that will occur on this complex.
I have to say thank you very much for this, because the girls deserve it, really.
They do.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'm just still trying to orient myself where this is. I'm still lost on that.
So,
Like,
this
what's
is-
there now?
This is where all the
Trees.
tree stumps are.
I
Remember
got
several
you.
months
Okay.
back, we
Yeah,
had to
so
cut
now I
down
got it.
trees.
Yep,
The
now I got it.
parking
So
lot.
that was the driving
location.
range.
Yeah, the parking
This-
lot's the lower part of
That's
the
the driving
village.
range.
Right, the parking lot area was the old
Back.
driving range.
I'm good.
So, and
Thanks.
the
Mark's
complex
back.
is located where we had a small forest, if you will, and now is occupied by the tree stumps.
Remember the bats went to my house.
Yeah.
But that's okay, we needed them off this site.
Adopt
Any other
that
questions?
program. Yep, Heather, Tim, you all have questions this side? Okay.
Without being too specific, and I'm very excited about this because the softball fields were not something that I was super happy with, and I'm a field hockey mom, so yay. But without being specific, do we have security built into this plan? Because I was uncomfortable with how the softball fields were so out by themselves, but this is also way down at the end by itself.
All of our poles will be equipped with security cameras.
Okay, good.
So that's something that was very important in our planning process. So this will be a secure site. The fencing around the field is, I believe, 6 or 8 foot fencing. So you really have to make an effort to try and get in there if you're not supposed to be there. But the entire site will be outfitted with security cameras tied to our central system.
Perfect, thank you.
Just confirming, so the field in the middle, the rectangle is field hockey.
Yes,
Right.
this is field hockey.
Excellent. And then is this large enough that, and I'm not sure if this would ever happen, but is it large enough that 2 games could be going on simultaneously?
Softball?
Yeah.
Conceivably.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Did you have a question, Barb? No? Okay, Jeff?
Just 2 quick questions. During the 6-month period, how much parking interruption is going to take place down in that section?
We're not anticipating it's going to have an adverse impact on the utilization of parking. If you're down at that site anytime during the school day, there is a lot of space back there.
Okay.
So we don't think there'll be adverse impact. And one of the things that we'll be managing with the contractor is their entry and exiting during school opening and closing. So we'll be limiting contractor traffic during those periods of time so that we can get buses and staff and students in and out of the site.
All right, good. And just the second question, I know we're still kicking around ideas with the potential of a new high school or a renovated high school. Does this survive?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's $4
Absolutely.
million that we wouldn't be just
Right.
Nope.
vaporizing?
This
Okay.
is a long-term, it'll be there,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
okay?
Mark's got another question for you, Bernie.
So when we cut the trees down and now they're stumps, was the money that we spent for the tree cutting gonna be used for the stump removal too? Like how does that money, is it gonna cost us more money? Right, because there's a lot of stumps, so they gotta,
Right.
was that part of the cost to remove the trees?
No, the removal, when we had the trees felled, it was simply to fell the trees and remove them from the site.
So now there's a new
This
cost
was part of a
associated-
separate, now the removal of the stumps and all the undergrowth, that's part of this project
Gotcha.
and all the site work that has to occur.
Thanks, Bernie.
Okay?
All right.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's
So
exciting.
back to my report.
Oh, yeah, back to
Sorry,
you.
sorry,
Sorry.
refocus.
So
Okay.
Lady Bears, no,
Yeah.
back to Dr. Valensky.
So, piggybacking on Mr. Winston's comment, I want to remind everyone that we'll host a community forum discussing the future of East Brunswick High School, Tuesday, November 28th, starting at the high school auditorium at 7 p.m. I will deliver a 30-minute presentation followed by building tours and a feedback gathering session in the high school cafeteria. And we expect the evening to conclude around 9 p.m. I want to thank Dr. Dana Zimbicki, the East Brunswick Education Association, and their Pride Grant for the refreshments that'll be provided that night. And just to further, for the public and for the board, you know we invested in new field turf for our football stadium last year. That also would remain untouched. So all of those features on the western side of the campus will remain as part of any proposal to either renovate or build new. So all the money that's being invested in athletics will be retained. There won't be anything taken out.
Thank you for that reminder. Yeah.
The high school fall drama production of She Kills Monsters has been rescheduled. New show dates are Friday, December 8th and Saturday, December 9th at 7 p.m. On Sunday, December 10th, the performance will begin at 3 p.m. Tickets can be purchased at ebhsdrama.org. And I just also wanted to let the board know that last night at the Celebration of Life for Dr. Joanne Magistro, who was the superintendent who preceded me, the Stankwitz family, Liz Stankwitz, thanked the board for hosting the event. I wanted to pass that on to you. I also wanted to mention that as people came into the venue last night, they were greeted by the string quartet, which is directed by Dr. Arvin Galpel, and Adam Good with Bella Voce. And our students are phenomenal. And I thought what was really interesting is when I left the performance last night, left the celebration last night, I realized that the oldest performing student on that stage last night would have been in first grade when Dr. Magistro retired. And she was so passionate about the arts and about having those performances, but yet here we are with students who would have never known her, still performing at this really high standard. And I think that that's a huge credit to the staff that we have. So I just really wanted to thank Dr. Gopal and Mr. Good for guiding those students last night. And it really is a statement about the quality of staff that we have in East Brunswick Public Schools. And I know we're going to talk about American Education Week tonight too, but we are a very blessed district with a lot of really talented and really significantly accomplished individuals who pass that knowledge on to students, and I just want to thank them for that.
We are. We have incredible students, but you're right. We need the right people to bring that out in them.
Yeah.
That was
so-
actually almost a little concert in itself last night.
Yeah, it was very nice. It was very touching. So I'll wrap up with just a few reminders. Wednesday, November 22nd, will be a single session day for all students with lunch served in grades K through 6. School will be closed on Thursday, November 23rd and Friday, November 24th. And I wish everyone a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to take a walk with me? Okay. Dr. Zimbick hiding in the back. We have a resolution of proclamation for American Education Week. Whereas public schools are the backbone of our democracy, providing young people with the tools they need to maintain our nation's precious values of freedom, civility, and equality. And whereas by equipping young Americans with both practical skills and broader intellectual abilities, schools give them hope for and access to a productive future. And whereas public education employees, be they administrators, teachers, health and student service workers, librarians, custodians, bus drivers, clerical workers, food service professionals, skilled trade workers, security guards, technical employees, or substitutes, work tirelessly to serve our children and communities with care and professionalism. And whereas public schools encourage community by bringing together adults and children, educators and volunteers, business leaders and elected officials for a common purpose. Now therefore be it resolved that the East Brunswick Board of Education proclaims November 13th through 17th, 2023 as American Education Week. Dr. Zimbicki, you want to come on up? I don't need a, this is, I do need a motion. So moved. Mrs. Goss and Mr. Cummings.
Congratulations. Thank you for everything.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you. And yesterday was the National Education Support Professionals Day yesterday as well. So we always like to highlight our ESPs. So thank you. Thank you.
You want a picture? Before you escape us?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I beat you. This does not bode well for him for the bear crawl. Just want everyone to know that.
Don't worry,
I beat him in heels.
don't worry, I'll do massage there.
Sorry, couldn't resist. See,
That's
Tim's not the
fine.
only one that's gonna
That's
kick your butt
fine.
on Sunday,
That's
right?
fine.
But we'll wait for the bear crawl. Thank you so much, Dr. Zimbicki, and your staff. We are now up to the good of the cause for the public. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. To protect the privacy of all students and staff, concerns regarding individual students and staff members should generally be addressed by first meeting with the appropriate administrative staff. In order to permit the fair and orderly expression of such comment, the board should provide a period for public comment at every meeting of the board. Public participation is not an opportunity to engage in dialogue with the board. And I do always like to remind people that you will have 3 minutes to speak. If there are any issues that need to be further addressed, we ask that you leave your contact information with the two lovely ladies up front, and any follow-up can then be given to you. That being said, is there anyone this evening wishing to speak to the board? Yes? Okay. This is why I always wait a pause. Just, if you could please state your name and address for the record, please.
Rose Cruz, 22 Perry Road. I didn't really prepare a statement tonight, but we had our CPAG meeting last night, Special Education Parent Advisory Group, and one of the main concerns that came up was transportation, and just because everyone remembers things more when they can see it, I wanted to bring my son's favorite toy because the bus is the greatest thing in the world to him, but it seems like it's not for a lot of kids in our district, specifically the ones that are in special education. They get bused across town because they're in different programs and whatnot. And I think that they end up getting contracted buses a lot of times. They're not district employees. They're just night and day, apparently, because everybody loves the East Brunswick Transportation Department, there's no question. But there's obviously a stark difference between the service that they receive from the contracted buses. I don't really have an answer or a solution for this, but I feel obligated to bring this to your attention again. I don't think it's the first time that you've heard it. We do have a growing group, and there are a lot of parents that are willing to volunteer if given the opportunity. If there's something that we can come up with, thinking out of the box, helping out with the transitions at bus stops or drop-offs at school, whatever it is. We're really looking forward to working with a new board member that is part of our group, Lori Herrick, and all the other members of the board. And thank you again so much for the Student Services Committee meeting that we had a week or two ago. It was such a pleasure to hear all the wonderful things that are happening in our schools. And I'm just very delighted with all the progress that I've been seeing in this district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz. And if you would leave your information, then maybe we can get some follow-up and address that issue with you. Is there anyone else this evening wishing to speak to the board? Okay. Definitely not. Then I'm going to close the public portion and move on to our agenda this evening. May I please have a motion for items 1 and 2 on our Board of Education items? Moved by Mrs. Becker, second by Mr. Carangelo. Is there any discussion? Okay, this is a roll call vote. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mrs. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Carangelo?
Yes.
Mr. Sismar?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Guas?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese? Yes. Mr. Winston?
Yes.
President Lax?
Yes, motion carries. May I please have a motion for our one item on curriculum and instruction this evening? Moved by Mrs. Becker, second by Mr. Carangelo. And I just want to remind you that I would like to make sure we do schedule the presentation on the Flex School.
We are working on that.
Awesome. Any other discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Bringing us to 3 items this evening for facilities. Mrs. Becker and Mr. Carangelo, is there any discussion? We all had the discussion on your pictures from earlier, so thank you for that. I believe it's a roll call vote, right? Is that, oh, wait a second.
It is a voice vote, but we can certainly do
It
a
is a
roll call.
voice vote. No. My apologies.
Let's do a roll call, just for the heck of it.
No, we have roll calls coming up.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. May I please have a motion for financial services? Mr. Carangelo and then Mrs. Becker. Is there any discussion? This is a roll call vote.
Mrs. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Carangelo? Mr. Sismar?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Guas?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Winston?
Yes.
President Lax?
Yes, motion carries. May I please have a motion for human resources 2 items this evening?
One item. I'm sorry, we did not have a second item. That's-
Okay, look at that, see? We forgot one. Okay, for the 1 item, Mrs. Becker and Mr. Carangelo. Is there any discussion? Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mrs. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Carangelo?
Yes.
Mr. Sismar?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Guas?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Winston?
Yes.
President Lax?
Yes. Motion carries, leading us to student services. May I please have a motion for those 3 items this evening? Moved by Mrs. Becker and second by Mr. Carangelo. Is there any discussion? Okay, this as well is a roll call vote.
Mrs. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Carangelo?
Yes.
Mr. Sismar?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Guas?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Winston?
Yes.
President Lax?
Yes, motion carries. Bringing us to committee reports, information items, and for the good of the cause for the board. So, okay. I will defer, age before younger age. Go ahead, Mrs. Becker.
Oh, you're talking to Mark? Yes, he is older than you. I just wanted to remark on what a lovely evening it was last night. Bittersweet for the reason that we were there, but to celebrate the life of someone is really a wonderful thing. To be grateful for what you had with them while they were here, what they gave, and certainly Joanne Magistro gave so much. And Dr. Valesky that spoke beautifully, and so did the other people, and it was just a very moving evening.
It was, but Hank stole the show.
The story
Even
of how
knowing the
they
story
met.
of how they got together.
Oh, it was
It
like
was something
a
out of a-
romance novel. It was one, oh my
Yeah.
God, it was so touching. Oh.
It was.
How did they meet? You'll have to watch the video.
Yeah, we couldn't tell it as good as he did.
We couldn't tell it as good as he did, but now that we teased everyone, you have to let them know. So, he told the story about the first time he saw her, she was in the office talking to a secretary, and he talked about how it took his breath away, the most beautiful woman he had ever seen, and he goes through all this about how they get to a point where they meet each other, because she shows up in his classroom, and then, I guess, at some point later on, it turns out that she says, "Do you know, the first time I ever saw you, she saw him at that same time." I have chills now. She saw him at that same time and thought he was this, most gorgeous person she had ever seen, and it was one of those just kind of like, kismet, like, something you're seeing from like a movie side from, he said, she said, but it was actually really beautiful, so.
And she raced Porsches. Did you know that?
No,
She had a Porsche and she raced Porsches.
she was pretty,
Yep.
she was a rock star, yeah. So. Yes, so that was, and our students did not disappoint. Dr. Valesky is right. And you were incredibly eloquent, because as you said, you've known her all the time that you put together, about a week.
About a week, yeah.
And you were so
Yeah.
amazing, because you brought it back to the family part of it, which obviously, hearing from her family last night, you realize how important it was. We got to see the side of Joanne as a superintendent, but, the retired Joanne got to enjoy more of her family, and you got to
Yeah,
touch on that. so.
that's the one thing I do remember is we talked business a lot, and there were little pieces, that we had these conversations or even a whole day. But she always wrapped it up with some conversation about her family, and that was a consistent in her life. And so even though we didn't know each other a long period of time, I knew that about her.
It's pretty cool. Lots of good stuff this week, actually. Barbara and I went to the Veterans Tribute, which is always something. They need to move that earlier in the day, though. I think they'd have a better turnout. But that was beautiful. And actually, I say Heather raising her hand, but I did want to also touch upon one other thing. The Diwali celebration. It was a beautiful celebration. That's one of the things I love the most about this township. But we do have a surprise coming up at a future meeting. A family that I met there, Dr. Valesky's been in touch with them, and you guys are going to see some pretty spectacular kids. We talk about how great our kids are, with a really neat initiative that they're going to bring to us at a future board meeting. And I'm not going to say anything more because I'd like you to be surprised by these spectacular children. And I'll turn it over to Mrs. Cross.
All right, I have more than I wanted to have, and yet here I am. I wanted to say, just as a parent, the Sources of Strength trip to Hughes, it benefits not just the students at Hughes, but my daughter, my middle daughter, was there as one of the high school students. And it's a program that gives back in both directions. It's not just for the younger students, it also really, really helps our high school students as well, and it builds them as people. It was nice to see her back involved. I was sitting over here having a proud parent moment going, that's her in red, I see her. And I'd also like to thank my friend at Hughes who sent me pictures of her quietly from there. She was so embarrassed when she found out. I got to enjoy visiting the high school and Memorial Elementary School during the American Education Week, which was something I hadn't gotten to do in a very long time. And I had the very strange scenario of going from high school Spanish class on a block to Memorial that was doing stations about Friends of 10 adding. It was very, very different, first grade and 11th grade. But I would like to say, based on that if there are any elementary parents that were not considering going to see the high school on the 28th, you really should. I've been talking to my friends at Memorial, and they just feel very detached from it. Like, they're very happy in their neighborhood school. I'm sure all the elementary parents are very happily nestled in their neighborhood school. But this impacts us as parents of the little people. And you should go see the high school, because I was really, really enjoying it. There I am sitting in Spanish, being very grateful that my Spanish is decent, because otherwise that would have been a very difficult to follow class, I will say. And I'm very grateful to the teacher who let me attend. But I was looking around, and I was sitting looking to my left, and I thought to myself, I had this moment of, oh, look at those shelves, they're so retro. It's like the metal kind underneath the windowsill that have like the curved top and then the storage underneath. And then it hit me, I'm like, no, those aren't retro, they're just really old. And there were a lot of moments like that where I was loving what was happening inside the high school, but then like really looking at the physical high school and just wishing that more elementary parents could go there and see, especially if you're in one of the newer buildings for the elementary school and you've got a slightly older child, so you're in Hughes and you see that, you know, come see the high school, because my mom went there. And when she went back the last time to see something in the auditorium, she's like, why is it no different? She was a little stunned. She's like, this is the same. So come see the high school. The other thing I wanted to talk about was our Student Services Committee meeting. I did not talk about it at our last meeting at length because there was quite a great deal of other things happening, and I wanted to keep it separate. I did want to thank all the people that were there again. It is a long meeting, but so worthwhile, so I really appreciate everyone's time, especially the staff, because they've already done a long work day, and then they pulled together all these presentations, and we just all leave. It's really, really informative about what's happening, but we leave feeling good about what's out there and working together. There was a great deal from health and PE and an adaptive PE workshop that was happening. Mr. Malta has rolled out, well, Mr. Malta and athletics have rolled out a digital repeater form. As a parent who has more than once come over to the board office, perhaps in the wee hours, carrying that packet to drop off, it's nice to see that it's digital now. And a lot of the elements are now visible up on Genesis as well. It's just a whole new level of turning in the athletics forms, which is fantastic. He also talked about the GMC Summit that happened, which is really just great, the idea of putting together our athletes with athletes from other places. And they shared the accomplishments of our teams, which are surreal. We have really talented athletes who I think sometimes because we have so many winning teams, it just starts to all get lost. Like, oh, another GMC. Oh, field hockey won everything again. Okay. Yeah, it just becomes so normalized. But it's not normal how talented they are. It's amazing. CPAG presented and spoke, and I just wanted to speak a little bit more about that. CPAG, we just call it that a lot, but it is the Special Education Parent Advisory Group. And while it is mandated by the state that districts have them, our districts is really just doing phenomenal things. They've grown again. They're bringing parents together. And based on our conversation that night, I did actually go to the website to see how accessible it was. I tried it both at home from my computer and how hard is it to get onto from my phone? Is this easy to find? And it is easy to find. And there's a great deal of information there, which caught the eye of my littlest, who's always nosy if I'm in my phone. So she sat and navigated the site for me, and she's like, I like this one. But it is accessible, and they're coming up on a resource fair being held in December. And I know, having been a special educator for a very long time, that parents often feel isolated at times. So becoming active with CPAG, or at least seeing the resources that they're putting out there, can be very, very helpful. The other thing that made my head just explode in such a positive way, our guidance department went and visited colleges. They went. And they came back, which is really hands-on, concrete information about what colleges are looking for from our students, which was phenomenal. Because they took private tours, they took group tours, they talked about which colleges went out of their way to get information about East Brunswick before we got there. They talked about things that I had never even thought about, with SAT scores being optional, what are the colleges looking at? Our counselors at the high school now have such concrete information to give our students. But the thing that was most amazing to me, they talked about the essay, but they were talking about that, when we went through school, there was a lot of how many activities do you have? How much can you line up in the way of activities? And now colleges are also looking at, as an activity, if you have family responsibilities. You can include that now. And so many of our students do. You may not be able to belong to every club if you need to be home helping in some way with your family. And that's become a part of the application process that I've been living in the high school system for a very, very long time as a teacher, and I had no idea. So that was really just eye-opening, and I was so glad they were able to take those trips and that the district facilitate them being able to do that. Sources of strength, modified things for moving to Hughes, which I thought was amazing. There was a lot of thought and effort that went into changing the program to match the students that it's working with. And there was also a look at transitioning Hughes, transitioning expectations, not just keeping it the same, but putting younger students in there, which the amount of thought that went into it and the way they rolled out the Week of Respect was really inspiring. It was a ton of work, but we are not just putting younger students into the same building and rolling the same program. So I would like to thank everybody for letting me defer it for an extra week, but it was such a worthwhile meeting that I did want to take up some time and comment. Thank you.
Oh, did you? Okay, Mr. Winston, Mr.
A couple things. It seems like it was forever ago, but at some point recently, we went down to the School Board Association thing, where we all got to get, when was that? Was that September or?
October.
October? Right, sometime recently. And one of the great things about these, that's a gathering where school board members, along with administrators, can go, and you get to have a little one-on-one time with a lot of people we normally don't have access to regularly. And I did have a chance to sit down with a terrific 30 minutes with our architect. I can never pronounce the name,
Perret Somjan.
Perret Somjan. And in that 30-minute meeting, there were a couple of other board members there as well. I learned so much about what this high school thing is going to be, this mission that we're on. And I'm looking forward to the 28th, because I really think there's a lot of misconception what that $470 million looks like, apparently, because in speaking with one of the principals of the company, he explained exactly what that includes. So I know there was an initial knee-jerk reaction when that number was published, and I made a comment that I'd like to retract and apologize to them for. And I said, I don't really have a lot of confidence, and I was wrong. And listen, if I'm wrong, I admit it. And I do. I think we have chosen the right group. I now realize what exactly 470 million gets us. It's not just a building, and I think that's an important thing, and I'm sure I would expect Dr. Valesky probably to spell a little bit about that out, and I think that's great. So with that, it's simply, a mea culpa. I'm just apologizing. I do have confidence there. Secondly, we recently came through an election period. The winners have been chosen. 6 great candidates ran. Looking forward to Ms. Herrick joining us up here. And with that, I've learned tonight, and you always know when a board member's leaving because he leaves his laptop behind, like a mark. And I did see your laptop go, so I just want to thank Mr. Crangelo for the time that he served on this board. I think you served honorably, expressed your opinions clearly, and it's been great serving with you. So with that said, not to diminish anybody coming on, and I'm sure I'm looking forward to the same, but I wanted to acknowledge the time and effort you put in over the last several years in that. So best of luck to you in everything you do, and I hope you stay involved within the community.
Well, I think thank you, I think the driving little tips thing is going to go through. So at least,
That's all.
Mr. Cummings?
Thank you. It's funny, like Mr. Winston, I was trying to recall, I was at the Human Relations Council, and I was like, was that 2 months ago? Was that a month ago? So the time lapse is, it's real. But I did want to just report on that. I was really honored to serve and attend that meeting for the first time. This was in October. And it's a great group of people. I'm really excited for ongoing growth with that group. A great diverse group from, across our district and our community here. And one of the things that I just wanted to share real quickly was prior to that meeting starting, excuse me, some of the students, they host a thing called, which many of you are probably familiar with already, Coffee and Conversation. And they had invited 3 individuals, 2 of whom I believe are teachers in our district, and one of whom is on the administrative, or former teacher. Yeah. And invited each of these people to speak on the topic of metamorphosis. And it was a really beautiful, I really encourage everybody to watch this. It's on their Facebook page. But they gave these just incredible testimonies of their own journeys and the shifts and the bends and the unexpected turns that life can throw at us when we sometimes least expect it, and how some of the challenges that we see in front of us are actually some of our greatest opportunities. And it was just a beautiful event on so many levels. And, just kudos, especially to the young students who threw that together. The skills that they used to bring together just this really incredible event to share that and give that to the community. So I just want to give them a huge shout out for their effort, and really looking forward to ongoing work with that group, and really looking forward to bringing that back to all of you as I continue my time here. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Mine is very brief. I need to apologize. I misspoke at our last meeting, and then I forgot to correct it at this meeting as I was reporting. At the last meeting, I spoke about there's an interdisciplinary class happening that is both mindfulness and meditation, but it also went with, is it ILA? It was a cross-section with?
It's the PE.
It's the PE.
Music.
And PE and music? I thought, okay. I know it was interdisciplinary, but it was mindfulness and yoga, and it was specifically aimed for student wellness. And I said that it was every place but over at Churchill, and it's actually at Churchill. So I owe Mr. Hannes a huge apology. It's, again, where he just gets left out. It's at Churchill.
Thank you for that
So,
clarification.
sorry to Mr. Hannes.
No worries. Mr. Sismar.
We all know what next week is, so to everybody out there, have a great Thanksgiving with your family, those you love. To our staff, everyone out there, to admin, up on the dais and everything, we are thankful. Been in town since McGinnis School and kindergarten all the way through, graduated 10 years ago with Mr. Carangelo, and, It's a great town, People come here basically for two things, the education system and the safety, And you ask any realtor, you ask anybody, and that's why they come to East Brunswick. And it's just a very good place, It's a warm place. And I think we're going to be approaching 60,000 residents soon, but it still feels like a small town. So just stay off Route 18. But, I'm thankful for a lot of things in my personal life that I won't get into, but, to everybody out there, everybody working hard in the schools, hang tough, we're getting back, we're getting there. So that's all. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Okay, that's it for tonight? Well, since Tim didn't bring it up, and I mentioned it, we'll see you all at the Bear Crawl. Everyone
I
that
don't know if
beats
there's
Dr.
enough room
Valesky,
here for my trophy.
any students that beat Dr.
You have
Valesky get an
you don't need to worry
automatic
about
A.
that.
I'll be happy to move over.
Right?
there.
He's going to be limping.
When Dr. Valesky falls, he can go on my massage table, don't worry. I will take care of him.
That's right. Mr. Carangelo, once you pass the finish line, we'll
Yeah,
take care of
just
it.
come right to my table, Doctor.
Dr. Valesky, what have you done to deserve this?
Am I going to follow my own, or is somebody going to push me? Oh, I see people are volunteering to push me, yes.
I'll be there to push you,
Yes,
Dr. B.
yes.
No, we'll help you up. Well, yeah, push you over the finish line, so. Well, Mark, thank you for those incredible words about Thanksgiving. I could not have said it better, so. With that, I'm going to ask for a motion to, I'm looking at my two, a motion to adjourn. Mrs. Becker, Mr. Carangelo, is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. There you go. Get home safe.
All right.